They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot! With 0.6 of a second remaining.
Hey everybody, welcome to Break Time with Pastor V. And special thank you to those families who have sacrificed their loved ones for the betterment of this country. And for all that was given, there's no greater price to pay than to lose one's life. And so, special shout out to those families who have made that sacrifice. And thank you to those who are still sacrificing, those who are employed now, and those who went to war and came back different than they left. A whole new person dealing with a whole lot of things. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We cannot thank you enough. So today, title is Yeah, But, and I got it because I was reading something, and the children of Israel, God had told them, He had given them a land that was flowing with milk and honey, a great land, right? So Moses had to, when he got to Jericho, he had to go send some spies over to spy out the land. Now, the promise was that God had given them the land, and that it would be a land that flowed with milk and honey. It would be a great land, very prosperous. So the spies go and they get there and they see the land. They see that it's prosperous. They see that the fruit is like huge. Not only are this fruit huge, the problem was that they also saw people who were huge, and they saw themselves as being, they said, we're like grasshoppers to them because they're so huge. They didn't see themselves winning this war that would have to be ensued to take over this land. Now, here's the trick. This group of Israelites were the same people, though some had died off, but they had seen and heard of in this process of God opening the Red Sea, getting water from a rock, having meat brought to them by birds, bread every day. All these miracles they had ensued and seen God do, and yet they get here seeing exactly what the promise was, knowing the faithfulness and power of God, and they get there and they say yes. They come back to give the report and says, yes, it is exactly as it is reported, but you know what? How many of us are like that with God? He's challenged us with some things, and He's done some great things in our lives, and He calls us to do some things, and we focus on anything other than the call and the power of God, the promise of God, and the track record of God. The enemy calls us to see our own lack, our own insecurities. And we say, yeah, God, I know you're calling me to do this. Or, yeah, God, I know you want to do this, but whatever, right? So I read this morning, and it said this: insecurity, thoughts of failure, and worries about what people will think are very real fears. Fear of failure, fear of losing someone, or fear of making the wrong decision will always paralyze and keep us from moving forward. Fear can also stop us from doing the things that God would want us to do. We can't let the fears that we are facing paralyze us and keep us from serving the God who has been faithful to us. So I want to challenge you, and this is something that I deal with constantly, is to push past the fear and trust the God of your soul, the God who has called you. And so remember, it is as He said, and let's focus on that. And if we have, there were spies went and half of them came back seeing what God had promised and saying, we can do this. Now, they weren't ignorant of the challenges, but they said, because it's God, nothing's impossible, right? Then there were those who saw the same thing. They saw the land. They saw that it flowed with milk and honey. And yet they said, yeah, but. And their negativity was spread amongst the people, and they couldn't go in the land at that time. So what do? sometimes we've got to be careful who we hang around when it comes to the things that God has called us to do. And people who speak into our lives, don't let people speak into our lives things that are contrary to what the Word of God says. So don't hang around people. Oh, we tell them hi and keep it pushing. Don't hang around people who speak against what the Word of God says you are and what God has called you to do. So let's get rid of the yeah, but. Alrighty, have a great day. Thank you.